Bon dia a tothom. Avui ens acompanya Ben Comarck, terapeuta musculoesquelètic i divulgador i un dels referents internacionals en dolor, exercici terapèutic i raonament clínic. Welcome, Ben, and thank you for coming in our podcast and for having a few minutes with us.
Oh, my pleasure. My pleasure.
First of all, is there something you haven't had time to say in your presentation, or something now that you are here with us that you say, oh, I would like to say that I didn't remember or you didn't say?
No, I think I got most of what I wanted to get across
Okay.
Within the presentation. And
Okay.
so for me, the important message was moving our perspective from, things being damaged or stiff or tight or whatever, to understanding the multi-system nature of what we're trying to do. So I got that message across effectively. Now, are there many things that I have to say? Absolutely.
Of course.
It seems that you are very trained about saying things, so you said everything in the presentation.
Well, it's not my first rodeo.
Well,
I've done one or two before, so...
One of the big parts of your job now is this.
Yeah. So I am much more of an educator now than a clinician.
Okay.
Right? So, I probably am much better talking about it than I am doing it.
You are an educator for other physiotherapists, or
No, well, look, I'm an educator across the health spectrum. So, Core Kinetic and the Better Clinician Project, aren't particularly physio-based. It's it's kind of osteo, chiro, sports therapy, sports rehabilitation. I am about educating anyone that wants to learn. Right? I think, in fact, the most important people to educate are probably our patients, or even anyone we come into contact with about health. We need to change the messaging at a population level,
Yes.
and for me, that's the most important. So, certainly I'm not targeting my market just at physio. I think it's the majority of, healthcare. But I think there's lots of other people in the musculoskeletal space as well. Mm-hmm. And it's important that we're joined up with everybody, me and Adam are joined up, and we have slightly different backgrounds, and so that's super important.
I didn't want to start from in here, but we are here now, so let's talk about this. Do you think it's important for you, for example, that you are now more educator, if we can say like that, and not that much a clinician? Do you think it's important also to be also on the hands with as a part of a clinician to continue to keep with the education part?
Well, I do. What you have to remember, though, is I'm nearly 50, right? And so there may be a difference between being less clinical at 20 than there is at nearly 50. Right, so you do have to build your repetitions and your experience.
Of course.
For me, different journeys take different pathways. I would still see probably between 5 to 10 patients a week. I think that's important. But as your journeys take different positions, some people work at universities, some people work at sports clubs, some people go into management. Right? So there are so many different journeys, and what you have, I think for anybody, if you start at 21 and finish at 65 doing the same thing,
It's a long
This is
career.
maybe the problem that we have, that we feel we have only one way, and actually the most important or the most common is that you change ways between in your career a lot of time, I suppose.
I'll tell you, the most important thing is not to worry about what other people think.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right? If there's anything that I have learned in my life and my career, if you are in research, they will say you're not clinical enough. If you are clinical, they will say you're not in research. Right? So, when you have a different message, when you're trying to move away from what we did in the past, etc., You know, and that, again, not physio, the whole healthcare.
Yeah.
And you see Lorimer talk about that yesterday. They're not just talking about pain anymore, or even the physio world. They're talking about healthcare, anxiety, blah, 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 PTSD, right? But my message to everybody is there will always be someone to say something to you about something you didn't do well. And the greatest skill in it and experience that we can have is to give a shit less.
You said that. You
Yes.
said that in the presentation.
Yeah.
So
And it's useful because there's a lot of things to say and a lot of fields to.
You know, I see this. You know, I'm in my 40s, my late 40s. I know what you're thinking. I look a lot younger. You thought I was in
Yes.
my 20s. I get it, right? I do too. I feel like I'm in my 20s.
you feel like that.
I feel like it. But there, you will have people above you in the generation above you in their 60s and 70s, and they're like, "Who is this guy? What is he doing?" You know, and then there'll be, you know, there is always someone to say something. And that isn't always in work. It can just be in life in general, right? Yes. So we spend too much time listening to other people and worrying about what other people do. And all of that time you're doing that, you're not doing your own thing. And so, you know, there's some experience.
We of course, and I already said, we watched your speech, and I think we are agree in that the most important thing of your speech is that you want to change a little bit the perspective of
Absolutely.
physios. So
Well,
this
of everybody.
of everybody, yeah,
The
of the
patients
patients
and
too.
the
Okay.
physios, yes.
Patients, everyone in healthcare, you know, it's, yeah.
So the question about that is, I suppose that there was a career and a moment where you changed a little bit your perspective. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Well, I like to talk about myself like Taylor Swift.
Taylor Swift.
Taylor
Okay.
Swift.
Breaking
right?
balls, eh?
You didn't expect this, did you?
No, I didn't.
So Taylor Swift has had these eras, right? She did the big tour called the Eras Tour. So all of her albums are different. And for me, I've had a biomechanical era. I've had a pain science era, right? I've had a, you know, sports era. And along the way, you learn different things, you read more information, different things appeal to you in different ways. And, you know, that's an important part of your journey. So can I pinpoint, I didn't have a moment where I went, oh my God, and I jumped up and went, oh, it's you know, over time, we read more information, we listen to more people, we have more experience, and our perspectives change. Lower back pain is a great example. There's so much research, you know, and the more we read, the more we understand it's probably reflective of our health. You know, I think mental health is a reflective of our overall health. You know, so for me, health is really important, but health is not always a choice. Genetics affect health. Socioeconomics affect health, right? So at the moment, I'm in a who knows era. But everything matters and nothing matters, and I'm just trying to have some fun and not listen to people that talk too much shit.
And you need
That's my era.
every your answers finish the same with the same. You don't give a shit about the others. Is the most important thing. Okay, for the one who didn't, who's our listeners and didn't come to your speech, can you talk about the difference between biomechanics and biology?
Yeah, of course. So I think biomechanics, we try to explain painful problems through something being loose, tight, weak, too strong, not activating, you know, whatever. And these are all biomechanical perspectives. Now, what I presented was looking at the ecosystem. So understanding that, you know, how much activity we do, our lifestyle behaviours, our body mass, all of these things contribute to our biological status. Is that status positive or negative for pain, for health, for mental health, right? And again, it's about, you know, it's not just a tissue, it's a human. And not just from a psychological, emotional perspective, but from a very real physiological perspective, you know? So it's a bigger, broader, wider picture. It's called the biopsychosocial model, gentlemen.
this is a thing, I don't know if you agree, that people who's more biomechanic in this, in the terms we are talking about, when they learn or when you talk about them about more this biology, there's a lot of multiple things that we need to take into account, they feel, okay, this is like psychologist things. This guy is not.
Well, but it's not though. It's physiology.
Oh, yeah. I'm just asking for help in talking with these people.
What people do is they block out information that they don't like, right? So
because we don't like uncertainty.
no, well, look, opinions are like arseholes. Everyone has one. And you know, I think what we have to be is tolerant of different perspectives. So I am tolerant of people's perspectives. I don't agree, but I will listen. And most of these I've heard before. I've been around a while. And so for me, you know, I think people are often very, very quick to close down perspectives they don't like. Yeah. It goes against their learning, their ego.
But okay, I agree about the ego, but it's also about there's a lot of things we cannot control.
Totally. Doesn't mean they don't have an influence.
That's what I mean, because people, the things that we cannot control, and we are not going to be able to control.
Well, let's take cancer. How much can people control within treating cancer? Not a lot, right? You know, there's so much biologically that is... And most treatment is trial and error. There is no certainty in the treatment of cancer. Now, I'm not saying what we do should be like that entirely, but there are lots of elements of things that we cannot control. And you need to be accepting of that. Because this is life, you know? You cannot control everything. So, what's the famous saying? Control what you can control.
And how do you explain all of that to your patients? With the things you can control, you say like that to them, or you try to...
Yes, because about that you said, and I'm more going a little bit deep on that, about uncertainty. You said today, and that's where I try to remember now, you said that you need to try to minimize uncertainty.
Uncertainty equals anxiety in healthcare.
Yeah.
Don't you think it's maybe, I don't know, it's a better option to try to manage this uncertainty?
Oh, yeah. I mean, look, manage, reduce, you pick whatever terminology you want. So for me, it's about, what I'm trying to say is we think we minimize uncertainty with a label. We say, it's discogenic, it's facetogenic, and we think that is minimizing uncertainty. It's not. Right? In fact, we know that labels are like MRIs. They could cause more problems in the future. Mm-hmm. They give you satisfaction now, but they don't always create better outcomes.
Like dopamine.
Quick dopamine.
I want a label, I've got one, but 6 months down the line, actually I'm scared to move because I'm seeing my back as degenerating or whatever. Right? So creating a narrative is difficult, but it's important. So as I said before, the most researched subject in the world is back pain. So why can I not create a narrative from all of that information? It's not just about a label, it's about an understanding. And that happens over time. But forget understanding pain, blah, blah, blah. The most important thing is someone understands their own experience, their triggers, their contributors, their emotions around the problem, right? So that's, for me, the most important thing is explaining or helping someone understand their experience. Maybe you can't, you know, it's an internal thing, but it's creating it's creating information for someone to work with.
Yes, because I think about when we talk about education, pain, and all these things, I also committed this mistake, I think. We think, or people think, it's about explaining general terms of you don't like that. General terms of pain and how pain works.
So we end up talking at people. Oh my God, nociceptors, nerves.
They need to feel involved in what you are talking about.
So my analogy that I used today was you don't go to the mechanic to get a lecture on your engine. Right?
Yeah.
You know, and that's sometimes what we do is we give people generalized information that means nothing. So another analogy.
It's the same with other treatments, because it's okay. I give my
health,
theory.
my body.
I do my treatment, and I'm satisfied about that.
Yeah,
this is not
I mean,
individualized.
it's great that you're satisfied. It's the other person.
That's the problem. That's the problem, of course.
So I call it like being with a drunk guy in a bar, and he starts telling you about his wife and his daughter, and you just like, I don't care, because it doesn't mean anything to me. So if you want to talk and create a narrative, it's around the patient experience, not just random information about anatomy, about nerves, whatever, right? Maybe the most important question is, what can I help you understand?
Yeah. And do you think there's basic questions like this one, or basic things to know about the patient to ask and create this narrative?
Well, look, so we know that from research, a lot of people are worried about, is it something serious? Right? So is this going to be something that really disables me? Can I still go to work? Is it going to get worse? How long am I going to have it for? Right?
Yeah,
all of this is relevant
questions.
to the person's experience. You know, not how does an ion channel open and get sodium into it? Who gives a, you know, whatever. But they are going to care, how long have I got it for?
Yeah.
You know, they do care, why have I got it?
But then you can say 10 months, because you can create anxiety after. You can say una data fixa, saps? You can say a fixed time.
I think honesty is important here.
Yeah.
If it's going to take 10 months, it's going to take 10 months.
But
why would I? For me, whether it creates a problem or not doesn't matter, because it's the truth. Right? It would be like saying, if you know, you go to the mechanic and he says, "I'll have your car fixed in 1 day," and it takes 2 weeks. He satisfied you, but now he hasn't fixed the car.
Yeah.
Right? So let's take epidemiology. Let's say lateral elbow tendinopathy. On average, it's somewhere between 6 and 18 months. What am I going to tell my patients? It's 4 weeks to satisfy them? It's not the truth. Yeah. Cancer doctor might say, you're not going to die, and you do. Right?
But and also this makes me think about, okay, sometimes the truth or the more honest response or answer is not the thing that they want to listen. And there's a lot of people who maybe will give them what they want.
Oh, 100%. Well, they give them
And
the
this
right
is a problem.
answer, but they may not fix the problem. And this is what, do you see?
Yeah, but in a short term, maybe they go to the next.
Now what
to
we
the
have,
other one.
We have the problem of satisfaction versus reality. Yeah. So many things are done to satisfy people in the moment. Now let's talk about real damage. So this doesn't fix in 4 weeks. So now I get a corticosteroid injection, and now it gets worse at 1 year. So the misinformation and the misoptimism has actually created more of a problem, not less of a problem. But in that moment, you satisfied the patient. Yeah. Right? So realistic optimism is what I talk about. So there is a reality of things take time. And if you are going to tell people they don't, then you are bullshitting them. Right? So is that good for satisfaction? Probably. Is it good for medicine and outcomes? Probably not. MRI is exactly the same. People want them, but they get them and they actually cause problems. But they're satisfied for a day.
Yes.
I don't want to go more deep into that, but this also makes me think about the problem here. I don't know how it's in your country, about private and public.
These are problems everywhere, right?
I think so, yeah.
You know, about clinics, because if imagine if in a world that you can have all the public health care, you could be honest, and you didn't have maybe the fight between the other ones that they look more for the satisfaction that you said.
More specialized.
Do you know what I mean?
Totally. Look, I mean, these are above my pay grade.
Okay.
You know?
Yes.
So it would be great to fix healthcare today. But I'm going to give you realistic optimism. It's not going to happen.
Okay.
So,
yes.
But one thing I would say, and I hear this a lot from clinicians all over the world, and not just physio, that they seem to be very hung up on what people, they want to satisfy people in that moment. Sometimes the best things that you do for your patients don't always satisfy them. Same way being a parent is hard. My son wants to go out till 1 a.m. He's 15. I'm not going to let him. I've unsatisfied him, right? But I've also protected him. So satisfaction is such a terrible measure. And sometimes you need to think what is best for this person, not always what's going to satisfy them. Now, can those two things go together? Can we help people want what we give them? I hope so. That's why education is important. Yeah. But don't get so caught up, I don't think, on what do they want from me? What kind of answer do they want? Because all you're going to give is momentary satisfaction, right? You're not always giving the best job or use of your knowledge.
Well, I think the problem is when there's interest in between, like money or...
No,
welcome to healthcare, bro.
No, but,
this is healthcare.
But this is a good message, because I think that a lot of physios feel that every day when they go home, they need to feel they helped and they received a good review of the patient. Yeah. And maybe some days the patient lives with uncertainty, with not happy because you didn't let your son go out.
So
for
think
example.
about being a doctor.
But it's helpful for them, for your son and for the patients.
When people have a cold, a runny nose, they go to the doctor. What do most people want? Antibiotics, right? But we know that antibiotics don't treat the cold, and we know that it creates societal problems. So antibiotic resistance. So doctors unsatisfy patients every day, right? Not giving them drugs that they want. So, you know, you've got to, you know, so what is it? Is it a menu? Do we give people a menu and say choose what you want? No. Right? So
it's what we are doing, but it's not what we should do.
So I'm taking a hard line because I'm tired and I'm in a bad mood and I'm just going to kill healthcare. But, right, I'm disrupted. But we do need, I agree, we need to find the middle ground where people are, you know, that they are satisfied to some degree with good information. But I'm going to tell you a lesson, gentlemen. From an old man to 2 younger men, right?
Thank you.
If you go three younger men, yeah, I can see. Look, so you know, if you go through life trying to satisfy people all the time, you're going to end up really disappointed.
We have to be satisfied.
Sometimes the most important person is to satisfy yourself. Otherwise, you're just, you know. And you know, me and Adam talk about this and we argue about this sometimes. And he's probably made me a little hard line, but I do think, you know, sometimes giving satisfaction is not always giving a good outcome. What happens in the moment, eating, people overeat because the moment is great, but the long-term effects are not regret. Great. So not everything should be about momentary satisfaction.
Always good analogies.
Yeah,
always.
And sometimes we have to give tough love, but it doesn't mean there isn't love. But it sometimes needs to be a little tough.
Okay, let's go a little bit deep in an example that I took from your Instagram.
Okay.
You post sometimes papers, and there's one that I think you didn't say in the speech, so it's interesting to talk about. It was 1 month ago or 2 months ago. There was a paper that said that 70% of improvements of low back pain have nothing to do with the treatment.
Yeah.
There was a graphic and said, do you remember? 33% specific treatment, 18% placebo effects, and almost the half change observed with no treatment.
Absolutely. So we know... Okay.
What's the conclusion you take from this?
So we know that this is got from 3-arm trials. You need a no treatment group, a placebo group, and a treatment group. You can't do it from a 2-arm trial. So what those papers are saying, and this is why they do RCTs, if you take 2 groups over time, generally they look pretty similar. That's why treatment effects are quite low when you look at in a research trial. They don't reflect the outcome of the patient. They reflect the difference between 2 groups. Make sense?
Okay.
So in the clinic, we see big improvements. right? 5 out of 10, 8 out of 10. In a trial, we see 1 out of 10 or 2 out of 10. That's because of how much of just natural history plays its role. Now, for some patients, they get amazing treatment and don't get better. And for other patients, they get terrible treatment but get better, right? And most of that is to do with their ecosystem. So about 50% is no treatment, and about 20%, as Chad talked about yesterday, would be due to contextual effects. We know that placebo effects tend to be small. Contextual effects are quite small. And, you know, they are, but together they add up to about 70% of outcome. So 70% of outcome is due to not the direct mechanism of treatment. Although you could say context is a mechanism, you know.
But this, do you think how this changed the job of a physio?
So look, I think it changed again.
Practical
Healthcare is bigger than physio.
Healthcare. We are not going to be physios.
No, we're going to be the professional.
Healthcare professionals.
Well, that's the way that we're going in the UK. We have MSK professional. I'm an MSK professional.
Okay.
Right? So, you know, you have physio, sports therapy, chiro, osteo, all doing the same jobs.
Yeah.
Even in the NHS, because we see it as musculoskeletal. Right? So physio would be like post-operative specifically, but outpatient, you know, there's a whole bunch of people doing that. So for me, that's important.
Of course it's important, because I think when we talk about education, this is also education. How people come and how see physios is not the same if they go to a healthcare professional who understands and
needs to be joined up, from a doctor to you know, sports therapy to physio to whatever. Everyone needs to be saying the same thing. The best knowledge that we have, evidence-based. But loads of treatment is not what happens. The outcomes are not always due to treatment. For some people, that's really positive. They get better. For other people, it's not positive because their ecosystem is not built to change. They have that attractor state. They have a collection of habits that are unhealthy for them. It's not about a bit of tissue. It's about the organism and its behaviour. All right, and our behaviours affect our pain behaviour.
Yeah.
That's biology, right? A biomechanical perspective is finding something to fix, right? And we've said this muscle needs to be activated. This joint needs to be hypermobile, hypomobile. What other crap that comes out, right? So that's the whole point, is let's see it as an organism behavioural thing. So we talk about lifestyle when it comes to high blood pressure. We talk about lifestyle when it comes to BMI. We talk about lifestyle when it comes to cancer. But when it comes to MSK problems, it must be the joint is stuck. Right? So it's time to move on, man.
The tendon doesn't go for a run alone.
The tendon does not go for a run.
It was good.
The tendon doesn't put on its little tendon trainers and go out jogging. That tendon lives within a human, and the human is what matters.
Okay, let's make the two last ones.
Yes.
You are treating a lot, for what I saw on Instagram and for what you talk about therapeutic exercise. I want to ask you how this your treatment with the patients have changed over the years, the time, because I think this is now also everybody talks about the therapeutic exercise, but there's a lot of ways of doing it and a lot of ways of using it.
So for me, it's about, and most research now comes out and says patient preference, what's comfortable, what's manageable. So my tip for people is, if you're worrying about how you're doing it more than how much you're doing it, then that's wrong. So if you have to do some technical, fancy, you know, this is the right exercise to fix pain, or these reps or these sets, you haven't read enough, right? So we know that it's about behaviours. For me, what you do in clinic should relate to what I do in life, meaning that I might do an exercise with a patient. What I'm really interested in is building the confidence that patient goes out and does it in the world. It's a behaviour thing, not a technical thing.
I really agree, and I also feel this is a problem of some physiotherapists here in Spain, because we are also sports science. We have, before doing physiotherapy, we did sports science.
Buddy, my background is sports. You know.
No. But
yeah.
I'm gonna go to that.
Okay.
And people, a lot of physiotherapists say to us, "Oh, but you know the specific load for people. You know the
you know more. You know more about.
You know more. This is what we are missing in physiotherapy, and I feel that this is not what you are missing. The what you are missing is what you are saying.
Yeah.
Things that they are going to use, the things that are important for them.
Yeah. Well, I studied sports therapy, and you know, it's about kind of learning. I think for me, people are so obsessed about what they do to the tissue in the moment. How much load. But I said one more interesting thing. I said biomechanics explains the load to the tissue. Biomechanics does not explain the response of the human. Mm-hmm. And so this is the problem. So we need to learn not about mechanics, we need to learn about mechanobiology, mechanotransduction. How do we transfer load into response at a cellular level? Whether that's immune system, whether it's nociceptive function, whether it's metabolic, right? We have such a narrow view of therapeutic effects. Actually, personal trainers that work with things like fat loss are probably the best at this, because they're looking at behaviours, diet, you know. So I'm going to take my hat off to those guys. Working with unfit, obese populations is probably much more important than, you know, identifying a pathology or fixing mechanics, right? That ship has sailed. Population health, individual health, for me, that's what matters. And that was, you know, a lot of the basis, I think, of the kind of sports therapy is looking at it from that perspective.
Okay, last one, and we talked about this question. I think is interesting for you. We talked about, you are in social media. You are quite you have a lot of followers in social media, and you also said that this what you said. It helps me for this question.
Yeah. Okay.
You said that.
You remember, this is what my wife does. She tells me what I've said, and this scares me. This scares me. You said.
No, it's not the same. Yeah, it's not the same. You said that sometimes simple messages are wrong.
Yeah.
And I feel that the context of social media is not because of you, it's because the social media is like this. It's only short content, direct message, that sometimes 100%. It doesn't make sense when we talk about this complex pain, complex concepts and perspective. That's what you said. You need 1 hour to talk about a perspective. How do you manage this, and how do we have to manage this as a professional, health professional?
You have hit the nail on the head, my friend. So when I first got into social media, we used to write blogs.
Okay.
So 2010, you know, we're talking a long time ago now. There was like me and Adam and Greg Lehman and Eric Mira and, you know, Todd Hargrove and, you know, Paul Ingram. And we used to write blogs that were like research papers. They had references and we used to discuss on Twitter. We had these arguments, right? And now it's like, look at I'm going to do a dance and go, oh my God, it's just in
10 seconds.
Needs to be fast, needs to have colors, needs to have...
And the problem is that shaped by the algorithm, isn't it?
Yes.
That's the content that they think everyone wants to see. And that is harmful. So it is creating societal and industry problems that there are just simple answers to this. You just need to do some shitty test, right? Or, you know, this is some special exercise where I roll on a ball and it looks cool or whatever. So, you know, that's my point about messaging. Our messaging needs to reflect reality, not just satisfying the algorithm, not just satisfying the patient. Have we got responsibility to do that? I believe, right? So you will never see me do that stuff until tomorrow, of course.
We can record a video now.
You won't see me do that because it's not in my philosophy, right? So I'm still there, old man, grey hair, talking about a paper, you know, not dancing on it and whatever.
Yeah, but we can laugh about that, but it's difficult because the social media push you to do that.
Yeah, exactly.
If you want to receive.
And if you do what you are doing, less people will follow you, will see you, and your message that is important will not be in the...
Yeah, so look, do we have...
Where it has to be.
So that tells us our environment shapes our behaviour. It's an ecological thing, right? So the algorithm shapes what we do. So again, we think we have free will. We don't. Right? We're getting philosophical there though, bro. So, but the point here, I think, is information and the way it's delivered does change over time. And we can't hold that back. But hopefully... You know, I try to work within that the best way that I can that's also true to me. You know, so maybe next week you'll see me dancing and, you know, I don't know.
Will be nice.
I don't know. We'll see what happens. But, you know, do remember our environment shapes our behaviour. Social media environment now is shaping the messages and the format of the messages. So,
I don't like it.
Deep knowledge. We still need deep knowledge.
It's part of the environment, social media
but
nowadays.
That's why I keep pushing evidence-based stuff. Keep pushing papers, man. You know, for me, that's super important. But then I'm a dinosaur. I'm going to die out. Everyone, you know.
Okay, so
keep doing that.
Hours left.
We can
keep doing that.
we can leave it there. Keep pushing. The message is keep pushing.
Keep pushing and don't listen to too many other people. Because
that's the conclusion.
Everyone has an arsehole and they all stink. Just a little bit. Their opinion.
Okay, Ben. Thanks a lot. We have enjoyed a lot.
Good. Well, thank you.
The speech and the interview.
Yeah.
Thank you a lot.
Good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
See you.
Oh, of course.
Yes, of course.
Eloi,
Yes,
sí, encara està viu això?
Està gravant?
Of course.
Wait.
Figured.
Si no arribava.
Okay, well, my name is Bernat. I'm a physical therapist. I was doing research also in chronic pain. And the thing is, there's like a lot of studies trying to know what pain is. Do you think we also have to do the same about damage? In the sense of, for example, is it considered damage if there's like a accumulation of alpha-synuclein in the brain that is pre-dementia? Is it that damage? Is it not damage?
I mean, you're going to ask me something that I don't know the answer to specifically.
Exactly.
But I do think dysregulation for me is important. Okay. So I don't, you know, is it damage? Is it pathophysiology? Right? Is it a risk factor? Is it a mechanism, etc.? Exactly. Right?
But I mean, I ask this because the quote that there is pain without damage might not be that accurate, actually, right?
So I would like to introduce a new concept, regulatory homeostasis.
Yeah.
So let's take overload. Does pain, patellofemoral pain, you load your knee joint. Now, does that pain reflect your body's trying to regulate the amount of load the knee is under? Now, what we know is when we have mechanotransduction, we create new fibroblastic-like cells. Right? And they are laying down collagen to create a more robust environment. But also there is neurogenic inflammatories like substance P also being generated. So the pain isn't reflective potentially of damage. That's why it's a diagnosis of exclusion. But it might reflect chemical regulation of the homeostatic environment. So pain is probably more chemical than, but even damage is mediated chemically. PGE2 is your classic inflammatory. But I think a lot of the time within the body, the chemical environment is manipulated homeostatically to generate a regulation of load. And pain regulates load through discomfort. It might be a signal to do less, but it's not reflective of damage. It's reflective of the chemical status of regulation. Make sense?
Yeah, but the thing is, I mean, I totally feel you, but that might be also, in the sense of like in a cell perspective, there's damage in that cells.
Is it like damage or is it response? I don't know.
That's the thing.
Yeah.
We have, I think that's the point. That I think we have to maybe reconceptual the word damage.
Okay, so or is it pathophysiology?
Exactly.
Right. So pathophysiology isn't damage to me. It's a pathological, it's a process that has become pathological. So tendinopathy, Ebony's paper.
Yeah.
You know, is it a pathology or is it a pathophysiology? So, but we can't measure chemical environments. We can't measure, you know, and this is what Scott Dyer was talking about with the tissue homeostasis model, right? It's maybe about chemical regulation of homeostasis, not reflective of damage. So you can activate a nociceptor chemically that doesn't come from damage. So it's you know, it's probably a neurogenic inflammatory, not a damage-related inflammatory. It's cell proliferation or healing isn't the aim. It might be something else. We got technical.
Yeah, that was my purpose.
Good, there we go. Sorry if we got too technical, but yeah, good.
No problem.
So regulatory homeostasis for me is a really interesting concept that explains the gap between pain and damage.
Perfect.
Ow.
We'll leave it here. Thank you.
All right, guys.